So I'm going to give a very brief pedagogical approach onto teaching the whole child. So first we need to define what pedagogy is. So Watkins and Mortimer define pedagogy as any conscious activity by one person designed to enhance the learning of another. The issue with this definition is that it doesn't factor into environmental factors such as so cognitive learning. It only factors in a direct approach from a teacher and a student. So a better definition by Siraj and Blatchford in 2002 is the instructional techniques and strategies which enable learning to take place. It refers to the interactive process between teacher and learner, and it's also applied to include the provisions of some aspects of the learning environment. We need to define what effectiveness is. So effectiveness can be basically defined as when children make greater progress than predicted. So based on prior research or prior expectations, when they achieve higher standards and higher results than what they previously have obtained. So our first main pedagogical approach that must be utilized for all teachers, in my opinion, and is almost universally recognized as one of the most effective methods of teaching, is organization. So the Cambridge Primary Review states that good teaching is well organized and planned. So aside from being well organized and planned, the lesson plans also must be flexible in that they must be able to adapt as sometimes unpredictable questions may arise from students. For example, in science, when they ask for a definition of something which you did not plan for in the start. So as I stated before, it's a very powerful tool. And in this following picture that I'm showing you, you can see it's a very messy office. And my point is here, you don't know what you're meant to look at. You don't know what information you're meant to take. It's not well organized, and yes, that basically sums up what it's like to have a disorganized lesson plan as well. This actually follows up to sharing learning objectives. So sharing learning objectives is learning is primarily a social activity which requires common goals and shared activities. This should be the teacher's starting point. So basically the teacher needs to set out and lay out and make sure every student is on the same page and that students are able to know what they're meant to learn, intake the correct information, and yeah, take in that correct information. The classroom climate or environment is very important as well. There are certain types of teacher and child relationships which are associated with better developmental outcomes for children. Previous research conducted by Salmons in 2006 reported that the classroom climate that was more positive and had low levels of teacher detachment had achieved better results and better learning than those without. A major part of classroom climate is behavior management. You must be able to provide a safe and supportive environment for students to learn in. Children cannot learn effectively in an environment where other pupils persistently misbehave and disrupt lessons. Children need an environment that encourages them to safely explore and try new things without fear of ridicule or unwarranted reprimand. Teachers are required to be supportive of students and not tolerate negative feedbacks directed from student to student. Collaborative learning is another very, very important aspect of teaching the whole child, especially in the holistic approach. So basically, a third of all our learning is performed individually, and most of it is the other two-thirds is collaborative. So the most common form of collaborative learning is probably just the teacher lecturing in front of the class, and the whole group absorbs information. It is just an over-the-top, politically correct uh, image of people collaboratively working together. Personalized teaching and learning is a very, very important approach. It's not necessarily relevant to the holistic nature of teaching that we are discussing here, but I simply did not want to leave it out because it's a very, very vital skill set that teachers need to utilize in some circumstances. Dialogic teaching and learning make essential contributions to children's learning. It's been researched that and shown that it's not only utilized in language learning skills as well, obviously, but it also affects the child's ability to learn in mathematics. There was a research conducted by Cohen in 2005 and by Donlin in 2007, which showed that a student which had difficulties in the English language also had difficulties with mathematics, and they weren't attributed. It wasn't factored by memory or processing speeds. The child's memory and processing speeds scores were in the normal range. Assessment for learning is allowing for feedback in the classroom environment. It's usually informal, rooted in teaching and learning, and can occur many times in a lesson. A study by Black found that classes which utilized the assessment for learning had achieved scores 15% higher than classes which were not utilizing the system. So teachers in excellent and good schools provide more evaluative feedback than those in poor schools. In addition, teachers in excellent schools provided more opportunities for feedback. Finally, it comes to my final pedagogical approach, which I will discuss, which is homework. Homework is something we're all familiar with, and surprisingly or unsurprisingly to some, it actually has very varied results when it comes to research on its effectiveness. However, overall, most studies do offer support for pupils doing homework, but only at a moderate level. This was both researched by Hallam and Sharp. So to conclude, there's no definitive method for teaching children. You have to use a combination of all the pedagogical approaches discussed. Each method has its advantages and drawbacks. Thanks.